Good evening. Today is April 14th, and we are here, as promised, Monday evening to do our show. When I say we, Zola, Salena-Hawkins, please join me.
Oh, yes, please. I come.
My goodness, where did you get that from?
Well, I read, was it Leonard Kennedy in Ghana? He fulfilled the wish of ours to get some clothes, and thank you, Leonard.
Thank you, Leonard.
Yes, and we gave him the measurements, and basically this top was really for you, but it didn't fit you, so I ended up getting it, inheriting it, and you got to wear the pants to it. But yeah, this is, you know,
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Nothing like having friends throughout the world.
Hey, nothing like having friends in Ghana. Anyway, as promised, today is Monday the 14th, and we have tried to be diligent about having this little session we're having on Mondays, always, until we finally sell out of these books. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions before we start. How did the idea to do this come about?
Well, you know, it was your friends. His friends, okay?
When you say that, like, is that accusation? Accusation?
Baby June and July, they're dope fiends. Dope fiends.
Addicts.
Addicts, okay.
Professionals.
Okay, hustlers, okay, if you will. And they suggested that, you know, why don't we do a game here on the corner, you know? And
Incidentally, their names were Bam and Baby June.
as I said, yes. Okay. And so, you know, there's not much that you can take from as suggestions from addicts, but it seemed reasonable, especially since we were getting offers to basically do videos and be charged by people so that they could do them, quote unquote, professionally. But we said we're sincere, so let's do it ourselves.
You know, I could not figure that out to save my life. I still can't figure it out. Someone says to you, we see that you have 38 published books, and how are they doing? Well, you don't want to get people into your business, but evidently they know how they're doing, or else they wouldn't be getting in touch with us. Now this person says, this is one of many, we can help you out. Here's what we'd like to have you do.
We want to collaborate.
We collaborate.
We want to form a partnership, not 9.
What's the split? 90-10 or something like that?
Right, yeah.
In any case, as she says, Bam and Baby June suggested, why don't you guys get out there on the corner? You know, people sell vegetables on the corner. They,
Of course, if you got on the corner in the cities, you'd have to get a license to do it. So this is our corner, our internal corner.
the literary corner.
The literary corner, yes. But, you know, tell me something about yourself. You know, as you say, you have 30-some books. You have magazines. You're an NAACP award recipient. And tell us more about you, Odie Hawkins.
I thought I had, but just for the sake of the
For the
audience.
new folks. Oh, by the way, get yourself some libation or a little snack to enjoy.
She's drinking coffee and I'm drinking tea.
Vietnamese coffee.
This is not Vietnamese coffee.
Tea.
Well, first of all, I'm from Chicago, and I came to California specifically to get into the Watts Writers Workshop in 1966. And my writing life started in 1966. I haven't done anything but write books since then. I've had the opportunity to do screenplays and radio shows and newspaper columns, and I've been a busy writer. They call me the underground master, according to some people.
And your work, I understand it, is being archived at Cal State Dominguez Hills in Dominguez Hills, California.
Well, that's a big thing. That's a big thing. I think the most important thing that I would have to say, though, is that I have had the opportunity for the last 60-some years to write whatever I wanted to write. And I guess this is one of the reasons why I'm not better known, according not just to my reasoning, but to some information people are giving. It's because I'm writing about a bunch of things in different
Right,
genres.
right. You know, I love the way Lily Hood said it, that you are a book writer.
A book writer. I write
book
books.
writer. Thank you, Lily. Okay.
For example, we were laughing about this one. I had 17 books published by a company now out of business, defunct, called Holloway House. Holloway House was really hot in the late 60s and 70s. And in California, they were really the book publishing company for black writers to go to.
They even got, in the early 80s, they were.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first agent I had is the one who took me to Holloway House. I didn't know anything about it. But he said, okay, you're writing about subject matter that he would be interested in. And so I had 17 books published by them before they went out of business. The thing I have to say about Holloway House, here's to you, Holloway House. Here's to you. The thing I would have to say about them is that I do believe, and all the evidence points that way, is that they cooked their books in a wok. They cooked their books. They became well-to-do selling the books of Donald Goins, Jonah Zell, Iceberg Slim, and yours truly. They made a lot of money off of us. We didn't make a lot of money off of them. But we became well-known.
And I think it was the LA Times, or was that, did an article, was it the 5 blacks that made Holloway House?
I think that was
Right.
the LA Times, you're right, yeah.
Right.
You know, well, that was pretty well known. The thing that they took advantage of, and I don't resent it at all because they were businessmen, they took advantage of our lack of business expertise. And I began to find out things about how well my books were selling from a guy who worked in the Holloway House warehouse. I went down, we made friends. I gave him $20. Yo, here, man, get yourself a drink. And I went back maybe a couple of weeks later. And it's, you know, how about my latest book, whichever one it was? He said, oh, we just shipped 2 pallets of those books to Philadelphia. Wherever there was a black concentration, black neighborhoods and so forth, black communities, we had Jonah Zell, Iceberg Slim, Donald Goins, Odie Hawkins had a big readership.
Yeah,
that includes the penitentiary.
Yes, indeed.
I found out teaching a writing class at Chino Prison that almost all of the black prisoners had copies of some book written by one of us out of Holloway House.
Yes, and was it Professor Justin Gifford, he had a writing class in one of the prisons, and he asked us to send copies of Sweet Peter Dieter, which we did, so that we supplied that prison class with their reading material for that.
I really got hot at San Quentin. You know, everybody thought I was Donald Goins because they just said, okay, it's all just ghetto writing. It wasn't. I would like to say in my own defense, I was making an effort not to just simply write about how badly the white man was treating us and so forth and so on. I was digging into issues. I am still digging into issues.
Well, like, let me interrupt you with one of the books would be Ghetto Sketches, okay? And you said you were inspired by Ghetto Sketches through?
By a Welsh poet named Dylan Thomas. Dylan Thomas, as you all know.
Or you should know.
You should.
Just check him out. Even, you know, check him out on YouTube. Very interesting.
Well, unless you were interested in British poets, you might not know him. But he wrote a book called Under Milk Wood, and I believe it was a play at one point. And in this book, he went up one side of the street of this village he lived in, which had some long Welsh name I cannot remember. And he wrote about Captain Have-Not, and he wrote about this one up one side of the street and down the other. I decided to do a similar thing by going up and down the street of a neighborhood that I was born in on the west side of Chicago. We call it the West Side, and call it the Ghetto Sketches. And the sketches were just simply a series of monologues and interactions between people who lived in the neighborhood. There was up people and down people and...
I like the minister.
Okay.
And Big Mama.
Big Mama.
And of course,
okay, she
what's the one, the pimp? Not the pimp, the gay guy.
Mayflower.
Mayflower, yeah, Mayflower.
She picking, for example, 3 particular characters.
That they jump out of the page. The next thing you know, you think they're real.
Well, Reverend A.T. Tilley of the Sunrise Baptist Church was real. He was a Baptist preacher, a little guy with a huge voice, who used to scare me into being saintly by pointing his finger at, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Nobody has to tell me what you're doing. You know what you're doing, and the Lord knows what you're doing.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out, 12, 15 years old, I'm trying, what am I doing? Which one was it? Sweet. Okay, Reverend A.T. Tilley was real.
Mayflower.
Mayflower was
Big Mama.
Mayflower was one of the gay men in our neighborhood, and it's interesting because in this ghetto setting, I don't remember any anti-gay bias. I can't think of any homophobes. When I lived on the south side, me and my sister and my mother had a gay friend. I think the guy was a weightlifter. He had big, huge muscles. He was the first man I knew who wore an off-the-shirt, one-armed tank top.
Okay.
And he would come over to our little place down in the basement on Bourne Avenue and ask my mother, can I take him out to go and have ice cream cones? And she said, yeah, but don't stuff him full of ice cream. Okay. So he's got me on his arm. I remember that on his muscle, and he's got my sister on his other. And people said, May baby. Yes. What you got there? My chillin'.
The children, yes indeed.
My children. So when when the latter day thing about the homophobic thing occurred concerning what they didn't call themselves queer people then, they called themselves sissies. And no, there was no opprobrium attached to it. It was just simply an identifying
and
nickname.
they certainly would never think of hurting a child.
No, these were not pedophiles. They should get that straightened out.
Right.
Gay men, homosexual men are not pedophiles. Pedophiles are men, I guess that includes women too, who prey on children. That's a pedophile. Anyway, I've taken these people and tried to put them in every book that I've written. I use one character quite often in several books called Chester or Simmons.
Yes, good old Chester.
Good old Chester. Chester to me was like I'm using facets of his personality to try to describe men who were frustrated, for example, because they wanted to write.
Okay.
This Chester, this particular Chester I'm thinking about, this is one facet of the Chester.
Right. Okay.
Wanted to write, but he couldn't because he had a girlfriend named Heatwave.
Oh, yes.
Heatwave didn't want to see her man spending his time scribbling like a schoolboy. She wanted a man who went to work every day and shovel coal or something, you know. So they had a big to-do, and I've included in the Ghetto Sketches how she winds up throwing his clothes and his manuscript pages out his window, and he shoots her and goes to jail.
He has a moment of passion. A
moment of passion.
Yes.
The material that I'm writing about, and I don't want to get long-winded about this, but since you asked,
yes, please.
I'm becoming dehydrated.
Okay.
The people that I'm writing about are partially real and partially fictional. Now, fast forwarding it away from that time to the present time, in 2014, I had an idea to write a book called Hollow Days.
Hollow Days.
Hollow Days is a satirical look at my time with Holloway House.
Yes, very tongue-in-cheek.
Very tongue-in-cheek. Both cheeks, as a matter of fact. It's cheeky.
It is cheeky.
It is cheeky. I asked my friend Tony Gleason, Tony, I want you to give me a really bad cover. Tony knew something about Holloway House because I think he had done some covers for them.
In a different genre.
Different genres.
Uh-huh.
Marvelous artist. Anyway, I want Odie, what are you talking about? I want you to give me a really trashy cover. I want you to give me something that looks like
a synopsis of Holloway House. The synopsis of
the whole Holloway House thing. So he came up with this cover.
We love it.
And I love it to death. It is a satirical look at what the author, the publisher, well, the two publishers, the two co-publishers, I don't have to mention their names, everybody knows that they were two publishers. And these guys were so greedy and so inept that they were cheating, and people like the bookkeepers were telling us that they were cheating. On one particular example, they had one big bookkeeper who split with about $30,000. I think he went back to the Philippines. For that particular period, we didn't receive any royalties. So everybody's asking, we were receiving quarterly royalty. Somebody says, well, hey man, did you get any money? This? No. So we called up, what's his name? Right. And said, well, what's going on here? We haven't, so I'm sorry, but the bookkeeper absconded with the money.
There's a question mark regarding your royalties. Sometimes you get $50, and then there was that one time when you got more than $500.
Yes.
So
this gives you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. They were doing it in such an inept way, they got sloppy. I do believe that the 500 was more an accurate accounting than the $50. But then, you're in certain ways, unless you get behind the business in publishing, the publishers really have you over a barrel, because you in order to have the books checked, you would have to have your person go in, give them 2 weeks notice.
Right. So
unless you could do that, you more or less had to accept what they would offer. And if it seemed decent, you'd go for it.
And I think it was in 1999 or so, you got a postcard from one of them who had gone to Frankfurt.
To the Frankfurt book market.
And there's a big picture of you there at the Frankfurt Book Fair. And he was telling you what a wonderful time he was having there in Frankfurt selling your books.
Well, it was an example. That was the other thing.
No, golly gee. You think you'd take the author with you instead of just the cover, the picture.
Well, I didn't even know it was in Frankfurt until we got the card.
I know, like what made him think sending a postcard would make you...
Well, the trade-off, and this is, I had a conversation with Jonah Zell about it. The trade-off is that we had an opportunity to have our works distributed, and they had good distribution. We had an opportunity to have our works distributed, and I can't knock or complain too much about what had happened, simply because it got me a deal to do several movie scripts.
Also, you were in a French magazine. They wrote an article about
Présence Africaine. I discovered I had an international audience. Some of that stems, like right now with Andrea Mezzicornetti. We have an Italian fan, and also recently we just got I think it's a fan letter from somebody in Russia. At least the script is in Russian.
It's Russian.
I don't think it's the KGB or anything, because they would have written it in English, but this is in Russian, so the work has gotten out there. Why this? Well, it's better this than doing something illegal. Right. You know, I can write about illegal things.
This is your passion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to.
Right. And some of your characters do things that are not quite
Well, that comes from my own background.
Mm-hmm.
I could use you as an example. We were talking about it earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
Holidays starts off with a pimp named Ice Pick Slim. Obviously,
yes.
it's a play.
Yeah.
It's a play on Iceberg Slim, and he liked it. He didn't feel it was too. The idea was to go into the lifestyles of people that the ordinary person might not have anything to do with. I mean, I know that most people think that men who prey on women and take their money are evil, mean-spirited characters, and they are, by and large.
Right.
But they're also human beings, and they have characters, and I can give you an example of one, briefly.
Right.
A friend of mine named Big Al, we lived in a building called the Alma Hotel in Chicago, Illinois, 3800 Lake Park. The first and second floor were what you would call brothels. The third floor was mixed civilian brothels. The fourth floor was taken over by reclining, resting pimps and off-duty hoes, as somebody once put it.
Okay.
When people began to become aware that I was writing, because I was writing then, one of the people, Big Al, made an effort to coach me. He says, well, okay, if you're going to write about this, you should know something about it. So come up to the room. I want to give my hoes a little pep talk. He had 6. I was running errands for these people, you know, buying cigarettes and hamburgers and so forth. So I go up and position myself in a corner with a little Coca-Cola.
Yes, trimming hair is what I would call trimming hair. Okay.
And he's giving them a pep talk with me as the indulgent audience. I have to make you ladies aware that the current input has been at an all-time low. Now, I don't have to talk to you about how much I love money. Everybody knows I love money. Money gives me an erection.
Oops. Okay.
That's right. It ain't about love and emotion and all that. It's about greenbacks.
Gotcha.
And if you're not bringing me the greenbacks that I think I feel I deserve, I don't think you need to get any love from me. I hope everybody understands that. Lulu, do you understand that? Yes, Daddy. I'm sitting there then and today thinking, what is he saying to these women to make them go stand out in the Chicago cold? He was a benevolent pimp. He used to let them wear Argyle socks. What is he saying to them that is going to make them bring him their money, the money that they're earning, doing what they're doing?
He befuddled their minds and they loved him. So anything that they would want for the man they loved. And every now and then he would pat him on the butt or whatever else new.
Your explanation is as good as any I could have. He made an effort to include me in the brotherhood. He called it the brotherhood. And I can say proudly, I flunked Pimpin' 101.
Yeah.
Because he said, wait a minute. You had this young lady who was just postured to give you her all. And you wound up taking her to the show and buying her dinner. Dinner was a hot dog.
On a date, yeah.
On a date.
It was still a date. It was a date.
What should I have done? You should have had her paying for the dinner, taking you to the show. You can't pimp with a heart of gold and all that. That stuff is passe.
Thinking about a person like they're your sister or your mama.
That's what he said.
Right.
You can't think of woman as your sister or your mama or your cousin. You have to think hoe and drive on her.
Right, definitely.
But Al, I can't, well, you can't pimp.
There you go.
He made me feel so embarrassed and ashamed. I cried.
Only in his mind.
No, I didn't cry.
Only in his mind. But besides writing, I understand you're a certified Tai Chi instructor.
And I understand that you are too.
Oh, yes. Yes, we are.
So what she's getting around to, because we have to go in a minute, is the fact that we are really, really pleased and happy to be teaching Tai Chi Chuan, Yang 24, at the Watchtower's Art Center on Tuesday and Friday. And if you want to talk a little bit about the people we have, start with Director
Rosie Lee Hooks. Awesome woman, great voice, great actress, a great director. A woman who really cares for her staff and cares for people. Otherwise, she would not have wanted us to come and teach them Tai Chi.
Let me interrupt you for just a moment to announce this is the staff.
Please.
Alejandro Campos,
Excellent.
Carlos Spivey, Drayton Farr, Eric Rivera, Lucy De La Torre, Martin Wilcox, Nancy Velasquez, Nidra Wheeler, Norma Haas Rosen. Nidra Wheeler is a wonderful bass player. Patrick Taylor, Rebecca Guerrero, Rogelio Acevedo, and of course the aforementioned Rosie Lee Hooks. I had to throw that in. So shout out to you all. You were saying.
I was saying that it's really a pleasure. Appreciate the students when they can make it. Sometimes they're very busy and they can't make class, but I think for the most part they're learning and they're sharing their experience with us. So we are learning even more on how to be.
It is the most talented collection of staff people that are at an art center that I've ever come to grips with.
Right, and of course the Watts Towers itself, the complex is simply awesome.
Right now they have a wonderful exhibit for those who do not know anything about the Watts Towers Art Center.
You'll just have to go see it.
You have to go see it. I wasn't getting ready to talk about it. I was just
Okay.
getting ready to announce that it is there. Go see it.
This is it. They always have really good exhibits. This is an exceptionally good one. And of course there are the towers.
Right there. Built by Simon Rodier. Took 33 years. He said, I'm going to do something big. And he did.
And you have a radio play.
I do, about Simon Rodier. I was writing for the Sears Radio Theater, which is one of the gigs that came out of writing books for Holloway House. And it's about Simon Sabato. His name is always pronounced different ways. Sabato sometimes, Rodier sometimes. And he's from southern Italy, came over here, God only knows when. Took 33 years to build the towers out of all kinds of foul materials and broken bottles, and he did it by hand, people. He did it by hand.
And
Go see the Watts Towers Art Center.
And just a shout out to all of our fans. Thank you, Karen and Vinny, for sharing the plaque or the frame that you have of Odie's bookmark on the bookcase in your home. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year, if not sooner.
That's it today.
All right. Y'all hang in there and be good.
Be good.
Okay, and live a good life. You deserve it.
Bright moments.
Right moments.